Hello, welcome to my channel. I've had this YouTube channel since 2006, when my daughter was born. I have been doing a lot of different things in here. You will find a lot of embarrassing videos, of course. I have deleted most of the embarrassing ones, but I believe there are still some that I haven't seen. There's over 100 videos on here, so of course I haven't deleted all of them, but I will in time. But don't mind those. Watch the ones that are educational and interesting and good and not embarrassing. Well, there are degrees of what embarrassing is, but none of this matters. Today I'll be reading and analyzing a book named The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I have been working at a school for the past 2 months, and I've had the privilege of learning a lot about the school system here in Norway from a different perspective. I taught videregående skole a few years back, and what I can say, let me find the boy in the striped pajamas. You see, come on. I actually downloaded the PDF yesterday. I have bought my copy of the book, but it hasn't arrived yet. And I did see the movie, but I'm going to read the book, of course. You know, what kind of a literature teacher would I be if I didn't read the book? I am doing co-teaching with somebody, so I'm not going to take any credit for this, for all the work that she's doing in class, which is tremendous. I've seen kids in 10th grade here in Norway. High school is 11th, 12th, and 13th grade, whereas 8th, 9th, and 10th are what would be the equivalent to junior high. So I'm teaching junior high school, although because I'm teaching 9th and 10th grade, if those were to be equated with what is done in the United States, for example, that would be I'm teaching high school. But I am teaching 8th grade, which is junior high. So, but what the teacher in question has been doing, and her name is Maria, she has been teaching these kids how to read, how to get the best of what they're reading. So she guides them and gives them, for example, a study guide, so that as they read each chapter, they have an activity to do after each chapter. They're also guided in, she gives them suggestions, for instance, when they can't understand the text so well, they can read the book also in Norwegian instead of the original, or reading both. So they have a multitude of possibilities. What I'm going to be doing here on my channel, if I ever find this, I want to read out loud like I normally do. I think it would be in here. Let me see. Here it is. I will be reading out loud, but not just reading out loud. I will be providing literary analysis. I'll talk about the different aspects of the book that somebody who's not a teacher, or somebody who's not very adroit at literature would not get. So basically, this is like going to a literature class. It is not just reading a book out loud. I'm teaching something. So let's see. This is chapter 6, The Overpaid Maid. Some days later, Bruno was lying on the bed in his room, staring at the ceiling above his head. The white paint was cracked and peeling away from itself in a most unpleasant manner, unlike the paintwork in the house in Berlin, which was never chipped, and received an unusual top-up every summer when Mother brought the decorators in. So here we notice one very important aspect. When you discuss elements of literature, when you read a novel, here is what you find. The story can be told from one side, which is perhaps from one person who is a part of the story, who is a character, and who is narrating the story, who is telling the story. In which case, that would be a first person narrative. Here, the story is told not from the first person. It is not Bruno saying, "When I was lying on my bed in my room, staring at the ceiling above my head." You see the difference? This is not how the story is being told. He is not telling the story. Somebody, an omniscient, all-knowing, an omniscient narrator is telling the story. An omniscient narrator knows everything that goes inside the characters' minds, and also knows everything that's going on in the story around the characters, everything. But that narrator is not necessarily a part of the story in this case. The narrator is removed. The narrator, the person who's telling the story, is removed from the story, but he or she knows everything that's going on. So the story is told from a removed point of view, although we're hearing the story of a boy who's a young kid. He's not an adult. So the perceptions here and everything that's being shown is the perception of somebody who is a little kid. But he is not the one telling the story. So it is not first person narrative in this case. The narrative is actually omniscient. It's being told in the third person. And it is removed because it is not somebody who is a part of the story. On this particular afternoon, he lay there and stared at the spidery cracks, narrowing his eyes to consider what might lie behind him. He imagined that there were insects living in the spaces between the paint and the ceiling itself, which were pushing it out, cracking it wide, opening it up, trying to create a gap so that they could squeeze through and look for a window where they might make their escape. Nothing, thought Bruno, not even the insects, would ever choose to stay out with. This is something that has particular importance in the narrative, in the story. Out with. A few chapters ago, this was discussed, and I don't want to spoil it. And in case there are any students watching this, I don't want to give too much away, but just keep in mind that out with has particular importance in the story. Everything here is horrible, he said out loud, even though there was no one present to hear him. But somehow, it made him feel better to hear the words stated anyway. I hate this house, I hate my room, and I even hate the paintwork. I hate it all. Absolutely everything. Here we hear his voice. Here the character is speaking up. But he is not narrating the story. The narrator is narrating it. So it is not told from the first person perspective. Although we hear his voice, he is talking. This is a monologue, if you will, because there's nobody there to hear him. A dialogue when two or more people are speaking. If there is A and B, A talking to B, two people are talking, that's a dialogue. If one person is talking to themselves, and one of the most famous monologues ever is the To Be or Not to Be by William Shakespeare as a part of the play Hamlet. The play, because it's the most amazing. It is an incredible play. So here it's a monologue. He's talking to himself. He's talking about how much he hates the house. Let me go to the next page. It's difficult reading this in PDF. I like touching the book. I wish I had the book in my hand. I haven't received my copy yet. cdon.com. cdon.no. Where is my book? Okay, that was a little embarrassing, wasn't it? Oh well, I'm just trying to be funny. Just as he finished speaking, Maria came through the door carrying an armful of his washed, dried, and ironed clothes. She hesitated for a moment when she saw him lying there, but then bowed her head a little and walked silently over towards the wardrobe. "Hello," said Bruno, for although talking to a maid wasn't quite the same thing as having some friends to talk to, there was no one else around to have a conversation with, and it made much more sense than talking to himself. Gretel was nowhere to be found, and he had begun to worry that he would go mad with boredom. "Master Bruno," said Maria quietly, separating his vest from his trousers and his underwear and putting them in different drawers on different shelves. "I expect you're as unhappy about this new arrangement as I am," said Bruno. As she turned to look at him, with an expression that suggested she didn't understand what he meant, "This," he explained, sitting up and looking around everywhere here. "It's awful, isn't it? Don't you hate it too?" Maria opened her mouth to say something and then closed it again just as quickly. A lot of the characters have been doing this. They open their mouths to say something and then they change their minds. There's a lot of secrets being kept in, a lot of opinions not being expressed. One of the things that I would like to point out is that when literature makes a leap into pop culture, into the movie screen, for example, when a book is made into a movie, a lot of elements are lost, a lot of elements are gained. There are a variety of differences between the movie that was made about the boy in the striped pajamas and the book. First of all, there is a lot of reversal in the roles. For instance, I just recently watched the movie. The sister is the one that helps Bruno understand that the concentration camp is not a farm. In the book, however, it is Bruno who explains it to the sister. She seemed to be oblivious, or perhaps she wasn't oblivious to what was going on, but perhaps she was trying not to face reality. In any case, he's the one that teaches her about the different elements, the different aspects of that place that make it not be a farm. Whereas in the movie, she's the one that teaches him. And he's a lot more innocent than he is, a lot more naive in the version that was made for the screen. These are things that I would like to keep discussing on these videos. And it's been 13 minutes, and I know that people don't have the attention span to keep watching a video if it's too long. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll make more videos later.